What up, everybody? Ooh, I think the music is kind of too loud. Let me reset that music real quick. Turn it off. There you go. And put it back on. That's more like it. All right, how's it going, everybody? Right now is past Wednesday midnight. I guess I could say Thursday midnight. Right now is Thursday, December 10th. Oh my God, December 10th. That's awesome because that's the premiere of Alice in Borderland on Netflix. I've watched the show already. It's so fantastic. So make sure you go check out Alice in Borderland. Just binge watch it. You'll love it. But I'm not here to talk Alice in Borderland. I'm here to talk about Star Trek Discovery, the episode that just aired on CBS All Access, Season 3, Episode 9, titled Terra Firma. So, as always, with my reviews of episodes that already aired, this review also contains spoilers. So, this video is only for those of you, my fellow Star Trek Discovery fans, who have also watched today's episode, which, by the way, is part 1. So, part 2 is next week, but I have a few thoughts about today's episode, so bear with me here. Where are my notes? Here it is. Okay. First of all, hey, guess who's back? Guess who's back? Shady's back. Teleframe. All right. David Cronenberg is back, yo, as Kovich. Kovich? Not COVID. He's the Federation interrogator who essentially psychologically broke Philippa Georgia. The Terran Philippa Georgia, obviously. And so they have been teasing us for the past few episodes. They're like, oh, look, there's something brewing about Philippa Georgia, and eventually you guys are gonna see it. So that episode has arrived, and apparently it's a two-parter. And so David Cronenberg is back as Kovich to tell Dr. Hugh what's wrong with Philippa Georgia, and as we all suspect, it has to do with the fact that, you know, everybody jumped, of course, 900 years into the future, but Philippa is the only person who not only jumped way that far into the future, but she also came from another parallel dimension. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think Kovich had told Philippa at one point that her Terran universe had gone extinct or had been destroyed, you know, hundreds of years back then. Something to that effect. And so that caused a lot of flashes like that had been bugging and bothering Philippa Georgia throughout these past few episodes. So now it's like, all right, finally these 2 episodes will be dedicated to my favorite character, Philippa Georgia, and I could not be any happier. The thing is, I mean, even at the beginning of today's episode, she already starts out funny. I mean, she was mean to Tilly, and she lashes out on everybody. You know, the kind of Philippa Georgia that we already know, but kind of times 10, because she's so frustrated. She's so salty, and there's something wrong with her, and the not knowing bothers her even more, and she takes it out on everybody around her. It's just like toxic, man. But it's, I don't know, I just find joy in watching that kind of person, you know. A jerk or a hole, however you want to call it. There's something funny, there's something that cracks me up about that kind of a person. I guess that's why I'm drawn to Philippa Georgia. Even though if Philippa actually existed in in real life, in my circle of people I know, I probably would not befriend her at all. I would probably stay away from her. She kind of reminds me of Sheldon, from The Big Bang Theory. When Sheldon gets salty, whoo! If you remember, Sheldon is really good at throwing verbal attacks at people, making them feel small and insignificant. And that's Philippa Georgiou's superpower, basically. Before we get to talking about the part where Philippa comes back or returns as Emperor, I just want to comment real quick that Admiral Vance, turns out he's pretty wise. I guess excuse me. I've been feeling under the weather as of late. That's why I haven't been posting a lot on Twitter. But Admiral Vance, the one who's played by Oded Fehr from the Mummy franchise. Woo! In the previous episodes, I took him as somebody who knows what he's doing, right? He doesn't get to the point where he is without any, inkling of wisdom or experience. Of course, he does have those. But when he tells Saru on this episode regarding hang in there, Rama. Hold on there. When he tells Saru about the drowning crew member analogy, I was taken aback. I was like, whoa. I didn't know that Admiral Vance had it in him. I thought that he would be more of an iron fist, more like strict to hey, no, just like Saru said, we got to see the bigger picture. There's this other threat with Chain that's coming. We can't just stop for the sake of Philippa Georgiou, but for him to approach it that way means that maybe there had been some, like he said, I did some bad calls in the past. Maybe there had been some bad calls in the past that he made regarding one or two of his crew members. So he learned it the hard way and he passed it down to Saru. It's like, hey, you got to do this. This is very important, because if you fail on this, then everybody on your ship will, from that point forward, will look at you differently as a leader, and you don't want that. So credit where credit is due. I always like to, whenever somebody surprises me with their wisdom, with their epiphany, with their enlightenment, even the people that we usually don't expect it to come from them. It's just like you gotta acknowledge it when it happens. So kudos to Admiral Vance on that. Regarding Stamets and Adira, whenever Stamets and Adira have their moments, I just want to say that those moments are welcome. Okay, I welcome them. I like this whole fatherly figure, big brother sister dynamic that they have going there. It's sweet. It's adorable. It's the Stamets that we hadn't seen before. Because remember, Stamets in previous seasons were like the mild version of Philippa. Remember, Stamets also had sharp tongue and he would push everybody away around him. Remember, that's how he was in previous seasons, and he would be suspicious and he would be a jerk. He was a jerk also in this season a little bit, but not to the extent of Philippa. And to see Stamets being this way toward Adira, mentoring um, pointing out where she got wrong a little bit, and she's like, hey, pointing her in the right direction. I like that statement. I think spending time with Adira has made Stamets a better character, a better person, in a good sense kind of way. So I like it. He's more composed now and more sharing. It's so awesome. I do miss Jet Reno though. I like that Jet Reno always pushes Stamets' buttons. So it's been a few episodes now since the last time we saw Jet Reno. So hopefully she comes back again. Because good Stamets is okay, but good Stamets being annoyed by Jet Reno is awesome. Alright, so let's get to the main event. So Burnham and Philippa go to this planet and they meet the guy who plays the chief detective on CSI series. Remember him? Apparently in this scenario, he's this mystery guy named Carl with a mystery door that allows Philippa into her dimension again. But my suspicion is that it may seem as if she time traveled back to her universe as the emperor again. It may seem that way. It may seem like, oh, she's got another crack at, or she's been given a mulligan, another second chance, kind of like what we would all do if we ever get to time travel. We would all go to the past and try to fix something. It seems to be that way. At least that's what this episode indicates. My theory is that by next week with part 2, it will be revealed something else about it. Like it's not necessarily a real deal. It could be like a dreamscape or a self-realization. Because in this dimension that she's back into again, you can sense that it cracks me up that everybody, first of all, it cracks me up that everybody is ruthless and cruel. At one point they even have like a fight club just to pick who gets to be the next chief security officer. It's just like, wow. the degree of the ruthlessness of these characters. I mean, and of course these are the Terran versions of Burnham and Stamets. So to see them this way is already funny as it is. But the fact that they are really seriously about it, they're like, you can see the stare at Burnham's eyes and Stamets and Hughes, like they don't even laugh, and if they laugh, it's because they take pleasure in somebody's pain. Like they're the kind of people who would find happiness when a girl falls off the bike. If a girl falls off a bike, they would probably like, ha ha ha, look at that girl. Stupid girl. So I was just laughing throughout this whole scenario, throughout this whole dimension, because they can get really over the top. Their cruelty gets really over the top. At one point, like Burnham is like, "Did I ask for wine?" And it's like, bah! as she lashed out at Saru, the Kelpian slave. I was like, come on, that is way too comical. Like, that reminds me of Wayne Brady's sketch on Chappelle's show. I mean, is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke him? Did I ask for wine? Bah! So everybody is an a-hole in this universe, but you can sense that Philippa holds back, and to the eyes of these people, of her people, because they kind of operate like a thuggish mafia kind of way. So in their eyes, Philippa holding back is weakness, is soft. But obviously, evidently, Philippa has been Terra and Philippa has been influenced by the ways of doing things, Discovery's ways of doing things, you know. So there's always that, especially when she had the Kelpian slave in her room, she kind of shows some sympathy towards him, towards this version of Saru. So you can tell, you know, I think Philippa is kind of torn or conflicted apart a bit, because there's a side of her that feels like, oh my god, I'm powerful again. I'm back. I'm an emperor again. You know, on Discovery, I'm just a secondary character, secondary person to Michael Burnham or Saru or everybody on the bridge. But here I'm the queen again, you know. So there's that side of her that's like, ah, this feels good. But there's another side of her that's like, that's been shaped by Discovery's way of seeing things, or their perspective of not just mercy but just and fairness and how you deal with people, and that's not gonna fare well. That is not gonna fare well in the part 2 next week, most definitely, especially with the fact that Philippa chooses not to cut off the head of the traitor Michael Burnham in this universe. So it's gonna be a really interesting turnout next week, and I would love to see how it ties in the end to the whole supposedly or expected healing process of Philippa Georgiou, because that's what we want to see, right? We want this whole journey of Terra Firma part 1 and part 2 to end with the healing of Philippa Georgiou, instead of her as the tomorrow's newspaper indicates, oh, she's gonna die, you know. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how that plays out, definitely next week. Let's see, what else do I have before I end? I guess that's it. Those are all the thoughts that I have. I'm so glad. Remember, I told you in previous episodes, like, I can't wait for the episode to just focus on my favorite character, Philippa Georgiou, and they finally come to that point. They've hit the pause button on the investigation on the burn. Well, not necessarily. I mean, they always give a little bit of progress in each episode, right, about the burn, including in today's episode with the whole hologram, the Captain thing. But it's a bit of a pause, you know. Now it's like Philippa Georgiou's moment in today's episode and next week's episode. And lastly, I also want to end on this. If you notice, you know, when they arrive on the planet, right? Snowy planet, icy planet, and before Philippa enters the door, if you notice, Burnham and Philippa still can't get over each other's Burnham and Philippa. You know, they still can't get over the fact, like, because they always bring it up from time to time. They always bring it up, like, something along the lines of, like, oh, my Burnham wouldn't do that, like, you know. And then the Burnham would say, like, oh, my prime Philippa, you know, wouldn't do that, you know, she was better than you, or something like. So in order to hurt each other, they would hurl insults in the form of, man, if only you were my Burnham from my world, or like, if only you were my Philippa from my world. So and there's been more than one occasions when they did that in the past, and it culminated even more in today's episode. And you can tell that, like, there's still this animosity of the fact that they're not each other's person. There's like, oh, yes, you are Philippa, I see you, you're standing in front of me, but you're not my Philippa. So they still haven't gotten over that yet. That's still is something that they also need to conquer, and maybe that could also be part of the realization come next week's episode. Maybe it'll result in in both Burnham and Philippa to just accept each other. Yeah, sure, I guess you're not my version of the person I know, but you know, you're all I've got, and I'm all you've got. So let's just have each other's backs. So we'll see. I'm just theorizing, of course, but another great episode. Love Philippa Georgiou. So salty. So salty. What do you think about today's episode? Do you agree or disagree with my assessment of it? Share your thoughts about today's episode 9, titled Terra Firma Part 1, in the comment sections down below. And as always, subscribe. Alright? And go watch Alice in Borderland on Netflix. It's such a good show. Let's rock this.